The Christmas lights twinkled mockingly as I stared at my father's text message. Don't show up for Christmas. We can't have your negativity ruining another family gathering. I sat in my private office on the 40th floor of the city's most prestigious building, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the snow-covered skyline. Below me, the Harrison family mansion, my family's pride and joy, stood as a testament to their perceived success. If only they knew that I'd purchased it 3 months ago through my investment company Aurora Holdings. The irony wasn't lost on me. While they thought I was barely surviving as a failed entrepreneur, I'd built one of the largest real estate empires in the country. Every property in their exclusive neighborhood belonged to my company, including their precious mansion. Miss Harrison, my assistant Michael's voice came through the intercom. The final paperwork has arrived from the lawyers. Should we proceed with the eviction notices? I touched the small silver locket around my neck, my grandmother's last gift before she passed. Sometimes, she'd said, the best lessons come wrapped in unexpected packages. Yes, I replied, thinking of all the Christmas dinners where I'd endured their condescension. Send them first thing tomorrow morning. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my sister Victoria. Seriously, Emma, you should respect Dad's wishes. After all, we're the ones who succeeded while you played at running a business. If she only knew that her luxury real estate firm operated in buildings I owned, or that her recent, exclusive listing was actually my property. The commission she'd been bragging about came from my company's account. I opened my laptop to review the eviction notice one last time. The terms were clear. The Harrison family had 30 days to vacate the premises due to the property's upcoming renovation. My father, the great business tycoon, had never bothered to read the fine print in his lease agreement. The clause allowing for immediate termination with 30 days' notice had been there all along. Another text arrived, this time from my mother. Darling, you know how your father gets. Maybe if you'd followed his advice and joined the family business instead of chasing impossible dreams. I closed my eyes, remembering the day 5 years ago when they'd laughed me out of the family business meeting. Real estate development isn't for dreamers, my father had declared. Stick to something simple, something you can handle. So I did. I built Aurora Holdings from scratch, starting with small properties and gradually expanding until I controlled half the city's premium real estate. All while maintaining my anonymity through a maze of shell companies and discreet investments. Michael, I called through the intercom. Make sure all the documentation is in order. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. As I gathered my things to leave for the day, I caught my reflection in the window. I didn't look like someone who'd just been banned from Christmas. I looked like someone who was about to deliver a very expensive lesson in humility. The snow was falling harder now, coating the city in white. Somewhere in that exclusive neighborhood, my family was probably gathering for their annual Christmas Eve dinner, congratulating themselves on their success while pitying their failed daughter. By this time tomorrow, they'd learn that success doesn't always announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it arrives quietly in the form of a registered letter, signed by the daughter they thought would never amount to anything. I picked up my phone and typed a simple message to my father. Merry Christmas, Dad. Hope you enjoy the gift I'm sending tomorrow. It's been years in the making. Christmas morning dawned with a blanket of fresh snow covering the city. I arrived at my office at 7 a.m., hours before the courier would deliver the eviction notices. The early hour found me reviewing security footage from the Harrison mansion's perimeter cameras, another privilege of ownership they didn't know about. Through the monitors, I watched the familiar Christmas morning routine unfold. The household staff arriving early, carrying boxes of decorations. The caterers preparing for the annual Christmas brunch where my father would inevitably brag about Harrison Properties' latest achievements. Victoria's red Ferrari pulling into the circular driveway, probably loaded with presents she'd bought using her latest commission, my commission technically. Miss Harrison, Michael appeared at my door, impeccably dressed despite the early hour. The couriers are ready. They'll deliver the notices at exactly 9 a.m. as planned. Also, there's something you should see. He handed me a tablet displaying the morning's financial news. The headline made me pause. Harrison Properties seeking emergency investment after failed development project. It seems your father's latest venture isn't going as planned, Michael explained. The River Heights development is hemorrhaging money. They're looking for immediate capital injection to avoid bankruptcy. River Heights. My father's attempt to prove he could handle large-scale development without my grandmother's guidance. I'd watched from afar as he'd ignored every lesson she'd tried to teach him about proper market analysis and risk assessment. How bad is it? I asked, though I already knew the answer. I'd had my financial team monitoring the project for months. They need $50 million by the end of the year to avoid complete collapse. Your sister's luxury home division is their only profitable branch right now, but it's not enough to cover the losses. I leaned back in my chair, memories flooding back. 3 years ago, I'd tried to warn him about the River Heights location. I'd sent an anonymous market analysis through one of my shell companies, highlighting the area's declining property values and oversaturated market. What does a nameless consultant know about real estate? He'd scoffed during a family dinner. I've been in this business for 30 years. River Heights will be my legacy. Now that legacy was crumbling just as grandmother would have predicted. She'd always said my father's biggest weakness was his pride, his absolute certainty that he knew better than everyone else. My phone buzzed, a text from Victoria. Dad's in a horrible mood. Good thing you're not coming to brunch. The River Heights situation is worse than we thought. Before I could respond, my mother's message appeared. Darling, I know you're not coming today, but please consider helping your father. He'd never admit it, but he's in trouble. Maybe if you contributed your savings. I almost laughed out loud. My savings could buy and sell Harrison properties 10 times over. But they still saw me as the struggling daughter, probably living paycheck to paycheck in some tiny apartment. Ma'am, Michael interrupted my thoughts. The couriers are in position. Should we proceed as planned? I checked the time, 8:55 a.m. In 5 minutes, my family's perfectly orchestrated Christmas would be disrupted by reality. Part of me felt a twinge of guilt, but I pushed it aside, remembering grandmother's words. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let people face the consequences of their choices. Proceed, I instructed, turning back to the security feeds. At exactly 9 a.m., the doorbell rang at the Harrison mansion. Through the cameras, I watched as our longtime housekeeper, Mrs. Bennett, opened the door to receive the courier's envelope. She'd worked for our family since I was a child, one of the few who had always treated me with genuine kindness. I'd made sure her position would be secure, regardless of what happened next. In fact, I'd already arranged a significant raise and bonus for her, effective immediately. Some loyalties deserved to be rewarded. The next few minutes unfolded exactly as I'd anticipated. Mrs. Bennett delivering the envelope to my father in his study. His dismissive wave as he set it aside, probably assuming it was another Christmas card. Victoria's arrival in the main hall, laden with shopping bags, bragging loudly about some exclusive New Year's Eve party she'd been invited to. Then at 9:15 a.m., everything changed. My father must have finally opened the envelope because suddenly he burst from his study, face red, waving the papers like they were on fire. Even through the security feed I could see his hands shaking. I switched on the audio just in time to hear him shouting, "This has to be a mistake. Some sort of joke." Mother rushed to his side, taking the papers. Her face went pale as she read. Aurora Holdings. Immediate termination of lease. 30 days notice. But that's impossible. We've lived here for 20 years. Victoria grabbed the documents next, her designer handbag slipping forgotten to the floor. Wait, Aurora Holdings? That's the same company that owns my office building. And the Henderson estate I just sold. I watched as the realization began to dawn on their faces. Victoria was the first to make the connection. She'd always been quick, I had to give her that. She pulled out her phone, frantically searching for information about Aurora Holdings. "There's nothing," she said, voice rising in panic. "No public records, no company profile, just a list of properties. Oh my God." She looked up at our parents. "They own everything. The mansion, my office, all my biggest listings. How did we not know this?" My father was already on the phone with his lawyers, demanding answers. But I knew what they would tell him. Every transaction was legal, every document properly filed, every company legitimate. I'd spent years building this network, making sure it was absolutely airtight. Through it all, Mrs. Bennett stood quietly in the corner, a small smile playing at her lips. She alone had known the truth, had watched me build my empire while my family remained blind to my success. Her loyalty had been well-earned and well-rewarded. My phone buzzed again, a message from my father. Whatever game you're playing, stop it now. This family has enough problems without your childish attention-seeking. He still didn't get it. Still assumed this was some small-scale attempt at revenge rather than the culmination of years of careful planning. I turned to Michael. Is phase 2 ready? He nodded, handing me another tablet. The press release is queued. One word from you and every major outlet will break the story. Aurora Holdings' true owner revealed. Your father's creditors are already nervous about River Heights. This could tip them over. I glanced at the tablet, then at the security feed. My family still frozen in disbelief after the first blow. What came next would break the illusion completely. Send it, I said. It's time they learned who really owns their empire. Michael left to execute the order. I walked to the window and looked down at the snow-covered city. My city, though only a few knew it. By noon that would change. The myth of Harrison dominance was over. Aurora Holdings, the real power, was about to step into the light. My phone buzzed. Victoria's name lit up the screen. 5 years of mockery, belittling, and being treated like an afterthought. Now she wanted to talk. I let it ring. Noon struck, and right on cue the financial world exploded. CNBC led with, Mystery Real Estate Mogul Unmasked. Emma Harrison secretly built $4.2 billion empire. Bloomberg's headline was sharper. Daughter's company owns family assets. Harrison Properties in crisis. My phone lit up. Dozens of missed calls. 37 from my father. 42 from Victoria. Texts from my mother bouncing between denial and desperation. I ignored them all, watching the chaos unfold across the news feeds. Michael re-entered with coffee. Wall Street Journal wants a cover story. CNBC's begging for an interview. And, your father's downstairs. I raised an eyebrow. How long? 20 minutes. Security says he keeps demanding to see the real owner of Aurora Holdings. Refuses to believe it's you. I glanced at the feed. There he was, still in his Christmas sweater, red-faced, arguing with the front desk. Victoria hovered nearby, furiously texting. Probably trying to salvage her crumbling client base. Let them up, I said. But first, River Heights? Michael handed over another tablet. Exactly as you predicted. His creditors are calling in the loans. If they don't get immediate funding, Harrison Properties files for bankruptcy within 48 hours. I nodded and signed the documents. Release the statement to the board. Aurora Holdings will acquire Harrison Properties. Assets, liabilities, all of it, 30% above market. On one condition. Current management steps down. And River Heights? My original plan still works. Initiate it as soon as acquisition closes. The elevator timed. Game on. My father stormed in first, newspaper in hand, sputtering rage. What is this? Some elaborate scam? Where's the real owner? I didn't even rise. You're looking at her. He stared like I'd just spoken in a foreign language. Impossible. You couldn't possibly run a company of this size. $4.2 billion as of this morning, I corrected. And if your bankruptcy proceeds on schedule, we'll cross $5 billion by New Year's. Victoria sank into a chair, mascara smudged, her perfect image unraveling. The Henderson estate. My biggest commission. Buy property, I said. Roughly 80% of your listings were Aurora-owned. You've been working for me this whole time. You just didn't know it. Harrison Properties is not bankrupt, my father snapped. I pressed a button. The screens behind me lit up with live financial data. River Heights is bleeding $2 million a day. Your creditors want out. You've got 40 hours before Chapter 11 becomes unavoidable. He staggered back. Victoria's face went pale. How do you know all this? He whispered. Because I paid attention. I listened. I read what you ignored. Like grandmother did. Victoria blinked. That old office building, it wasn't worthless? It was everything. The foundation of Aurora Holdings. The launchpad for an empire. While you fought over jewelry and status, I continued, I inherited her real gift, her knowledge. My father straightened, clinging to pride. If you think you can take what we built. I already have. Another press. More screens. Ownership documents, deeds, leases. The mansion you sleep in. The buildings you work in. The properties you sell. They're mine. You can't. I can. And I did. I stood. But I'm not heartless. Aurora Holdings will acquire Harrison Properties at a premium. No layoffs. River Heights will be saved using the plan you dismissed years ago. Victoria's voice was small. And us. That depends. Are you ready to actually learn this business? The part beyond luxury listings and cocktail parties. My father opened his mouth, but Victoria beat him to it. Yes. I turned to him. Same offer. Admit your failed daughter learned more than you ever realized. Or keep fighting, and lose everything. Silence. Then quietly. Your grandmother always knew, didn't she? He asked. What you'd become. She did. That's why she gave me that worthless building. And all its secrets. He swallowed. Did it have to be this public? I remembered the humiliation. The silence at family dinners. The laughs. The way they dismissed me without a second thought. Yes, I said. It did. Victoria stood and adjusted her dress. What happens now? I pressed the intercom. Michael, bring the contracts. All 3 versions. As Michael entered, I looked at them. Really looked. Smaller than I remembered. Less powerful. Human. Now, I said, we negotiate your future. Merry Christmas.